You think you know Jane Austen? Think again. Behind the lace and polite conversation, Sense and Sensibility. 1995 was a beautiful disaster of backstage chaos, on-set pranks, and jaw-dropping close calls the filmmakers hoped you'd never hear about. Which Oscar-winning star was nearly fired before lunch? Whose audition was a last-minute lie? And how did Real Sheep almost ruin everything? Settle in. These 20 weird facts are about to change how you see a period classic. Emma Thompson's age crisis. Imagine stepping onto set, script in hand, heart pounding, ready to play one of literature's most iconic heroines, only to be told in front of the crew that you look too old. That's exactly what happened to Emma Thompson on her very first day as Eleanor Dashwood. Director Ang Lee, still getting comfortable with English, didn't sugarcoat it. He watched her first take, looked her dead in the eye, and flatly delivered, "Don't look so old." The moment was so brutal, Thompson said she felt like the floor dropped out from under her. She was 36, playing a woman barely in her 20s. And Lee's comment didn't just sting, it threatened to unravel months of prep and personal investment. But the twist. Lee wasn't attacking her looks. He explained, after seeing her deflate, that he meant her acting was too mature, too knowing. He wanted youthfulness, not experience. Still, nothing says, "Welcome to set," like being told to turn back time. Thompson later admitted she spent the entire day doubting herself, only regaining her footing when the rest of the cast rallied around her. If you thought Austen adaptations were all dignity and decorum, this reality check proves otherwise. Sometimes even the best have to fake being 10 years younger on the fly. Kate Winslet's audition con game. Kate Winslet, all of 19, wasn't supposed to play Marianne Dashwood. In fact, director Ang Lee saw her as Lucy Steele, a much smaller, far less dazzling role. But Winslet and her agent had other plans. Instead of accepting the demotion, they cooked up an audacious scheme. Winslet would stroll in and pretend there'd been a mistake, auditioning for Marianne as if it was always the plan. Why? They figured the British producers would be way too polite to challenge her, so she showed up, channeled full Marianne energy, and delivered a performance that stunned everyone in the room. The gamble worked. She got the part. The producers were so caught off guard by her confidence that no one dared ask questions. That's Hollywood for you sometimes. You don't wait for permission, you act like you already belong. Winslet's daring move didn't just land her a career-making role. It set the tone for a production full of improvisation and calculated risks. Years later, she still laughs about the caper, admitting that sometimes fake it till you make it isn't just a saying, it's a survival strategy. Greg Wise, Flowers, and Manure. You wouldn't expect the man playing Willoughby, dashing cad and breaker of hearts, to show up at his audition empty-handed. But that's exactly what happened to Greg Wise, right before a key scene where flowers were essential. Realizing his blunder as the cameras rolled, Wise sprinted outside the casting office, scoured a random planter, and yanked up a fistful of laurel leaves. Back inside, he presented his wild bouquet with so much charm and confidence that no one guessed the chaos behind the scenes. The panel was wowed. Wise nailed the role. He was so pumped by the call confirming his casting that he didn't notice he was still standing ankle-deep in manure from his hasty garden raid. Later, he even met Ang Lee for a follow-up meeting still wearing the muck. If you ever wondered whether movie magic is all about polish and poise, think again. Sometimes, the difference between stardom and a missed opportunity is a handful of stolen leaves and a straight face. The story became legendary on set, a perfect example of how quick thinking and a little bit of mess can lead to cinematic gold, psychic predictions, and real-life rom-coms. You can't make this up. Greg Wise was told by his psychic friend that he'd meet his future wife on the set of Sense and Sensibility. With Emma Thompson married at the time, Wise assumed the prophecy pointed to Kate Winslet, so he asked Winslet out, whisked her off to Glastonbury Festival, and quickly realized they had less chemistry than a math class. Winslet, never one to miss the obvious, pointed out what Wise was too blinded to see. the sparks were flying between him and Emma Thompson. In a plot twist Austen herself would have envied, Thompson's marriage was already on the rocks. The two soon connected for real, and the rest is the stuff of British movie legend. Not only did Wise and Thompson become a couple, they're still married decades later. It's proof that sometimes the best love stories happen off camera, even if they start with a totally wrong date and a questionable psychic prediction.
On the set of an Austen classic, Wise found his real-life leading lady, and the behind-the-scenes drama was juicier than anything in the script. Hypothermia on cue. That heart-shredding scene where Marianne sobs in the freezing rain. It nearly ended with Kate Winslet in the ER. Ang Lee, obsessed with getting it just right, demanded over 50 takes, each one under an icy torrent of fake rain, with temperatures dropping and wind howling. Winslet gave it her all, but eventually her body gave out. She collapsed from hypothermia, shaking and drenched. The second Lee yelled, "Cut!" Greg Wise darted over, scooping up her feet and shoving them under his arms to warm her up, while Emma Thompson massaged her hands and arms. Winslet later joked she had no idea that Thompson and Wise were flirting up a storm right above her frozen form. For all the genteel dialogue and delicate emotions on screen, real-life filming was a test of pure survival. The next time you watch Marianne's breakdown, remember, behind that cinematic agony was an actress fighting the elements and a cast doing whatever it took to get through the scene together. Movie magic is often just misery, captured from the perfect angle. The day the script almost vanished, imagine Emma Thompson, knee-deep in rewriting Austen, alone with her Apple Mac and the entire Sense and Sensibility script, not backed up, not printed, just one fragile file. Then, disaster, total computer crash, everything gone. Thompson spiraled into panic, picturing the entire production derailed because of one wrong keystroke. What do you do when your Oscar hopes hang by a silicon thread? You call the smartest friend you know, Stephen Fry. Fry, already famous for being a tech whiz, dropped everything and spent an entire day wrestling her broken computer back to life. Hours ticked by as Thompson hovered, sick with dread, while Fry pieced her masterpiece back together. When it was over and the file restored, she swore she'd never trust a single floppy disk again. Thompson was so grateful she gave Fry a shout-out in the film's credits for saving her screenplay, literally. Next time someone tells you writers have it easy, remind them of the day an Oscar winner nearly lost everything because she hadn't learned to hit save. Sometimes the difference between an Academy Award and total disaster is one friend who can actually fix your computer. Sheep may safely graze, not on Ang Lee's watch. Want a touch of countryside authenticity? Just add sheep. At least, that's what Ang Lee thought. What could be more Austen than a flock of woolly extras wandering across the set? The problem? Sheep don't care about cinema. They tripped, they tumbled, they collapsed for no reason in the middle of shots. Suddenly, the crew found themselves less like filmmakers and more like animal wranglers, racing to lift flopped-over sheep while cameras rolled and actors tried not to break character. On the worst day, sheep chaos derailed take after take until Lee, usually so reserved, snapped. No more sheeps. Never again sheeps. It became the unofficial motto of the production. Emma Thompson, who saw the comedy in the chaos, retold the story with glee. She'd never seen so many trained professionals reduced to chasing livestock through the mud. For all the dreamy landscapes and poised English charm you see on screen, know this. The real villain of Sense and Sensibility wasn't Willoughby or Fanny Dashwood. It was a herd of unruly sheep, cake, cameras, and canine chaos. There's a little dog in Sense and Sensibility, adorable, aristocratic, and completely useless on a film set. Harriet Walter's character, Fanny Dashwood, was supposed to be impeccably composed, her loyal pup by her side. The only problem? The dog couldn't stop staring straight into the camera lens, ruining take after take. No amount of gentle coaxing or stern shushing helped. Desperate, the crew came up with a plan as silly as it was effective. Off camera, just out of sight, they'd dangle slices of cake to grab the dog's attention. Suddenly the animal was alert, but this time facing the right direction, distracted by dessert. Harriet Walter, staying perfectly in character, managed to deliver her lines as her dog looked around, visibly baffled but obedient. The result? Seamless, scene-stealing moments that make Fanny's dog seem perfectly trained, when really, it was all about cake and clever improvisation. Next time you watch those drawing room scenes, remember, a period drama can be undone by one confused pup with a sweet tooth. Do more, less. Directing an English-language film in England was new territory for Ang Lee. His English was good, but sometimes his feedback left the cast scratching their heads. Alan Rickman, the consummate pro playing Colonel Brandon, found himself at the center of one classic mix-up. During a key emotional scene, Lee kept instructing Rickman to do less, then even less.
Finally, frustrated and trying not to break Rickman's spirit, Lee suddenly said, "More." Rickman stopped cold. "More or less?" he asked. Deadpan. Lee, caught off guard, replied, "Do more, less." The whole crew cracked up. The phrase stuck, a running joke about Lee's sometimes mystifying direction style. For actors used to the British method, Lee's approach could be jarring, but the confusion had an upside. It loosened everyone up, kept egos in check, and added a layer of absurdity that made the difficult shoot a little bit lighter. The real lesson? Sometimes, greatness comes from not having the perfect words, but from everyone finding the joke together. Sisterhood by force. What's the secret to the authentic, almost telepathic bond between Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood? It wasn't just acting. Ang Lee, ever the method director, ordered Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet to move in together during the shoot. The logic: only real proximity could turn two busy actresses into believable sisters. The result was instant chemistry, but also some genuine real-life drama. Winslet, at just 19, was feeling the suffocating pressure from Hollywood to lose weight, something all too familiar in the business. Thompson, older and fiercely protective, wasn't having it. She pulled Winslet aside, gave her a trademark no-nonsense talk, and told her straight up that dieting was wrong for both the part and her health. "Do you want to be a twig or a hardened soul?" Thompson demanded. Winslet listened. She dropped the weight obsession and focused on the work, turning a potential breakdown into a sisterly bond that lasted well beyond filming. It's a story that proves not all method acting is about suffering for your art. Sometimes, it's about looking out for each other, standing firm against the pressure, and calling out the madness behind the scenes. The Dashwood sisters weren't just written in the script. They were forged in a rented flat, over late-night conversations and tough love. Kate Winslet's onset hazards. If you think acting in a period film is glamorous, Kate Winslet's Sense and Sensibility experience will snap you back to reality. Surviving that hypothermia-inducing rain scene was just the tip of the iceberg. Winslet also came down with phlebitis, a painful vein inflammation in her leg that left her limping across the set, trying to look elegant while wincing in pain. As if that wasn't enough, she slipped on a staircase and sprained her wrist. Through it all, she powered on, refusing to let injuries or setbacks get in the way of the performance. Winslet later joked she deserved hazard pay for everything she endured. Her commitment didn't just earn her accolades, it turned her into a legend among the crew, who started making bets about what calamity might strike her next. There's a lesson here. Sometimes, the most graceful performances hide an unbelievable amount of grit, pain, and perseverance just out of frame. Behind every elegant twirl or dramatic outburst is an actor limping, bandaged, and absolutely determined to make it work. Hey, that's Tom Cruz. You'd think the cast of Sense and Sensibility would be instantly recognized by any film lover, especially when they're decked out in full Regency regalia. Think again. While filming at the majestic Sultram House, used as Norland Park in the film, a random tourist strolled by, spotted Alan Rickman in costume, and blurted, "Oh look, there's Tom Cruise." The confusion didn't stop there. The same fan then saw Emma Thompson and confidently announced to their companion, "And that's Sharon Stone." The The crew and eventually the cast couldn't stop laughing. Imagine two of Britain's greatest actors, mistaken for a pair of American movie stars who look absolutely nothing like them. It became a running joke on set, and a great way to break tension after long, grueling days. The truth? Even Oscar winners get mistaken for someone else. And even on the set of a Jane Austen adaptation, Hollywood's global shadow can creep in at the weirdest times. Next time you're starstruck, make sure you're ogling the right legend, Tai Chi time. When you think Jane Austen adaptation, your mind probably doesn't jump straight to martial arts. But that's exactly what Ang Lee brought to the set. A daily ritual of Tai Chi. Emma Thompson, juggling lead role and screenwriting duties, was especially encouraged to join. Lee believed that the calming, meditative practice would help her clear her mind and focus, and it wasn't long before other cast members joined in. Picture this: actors in bonnets, waistcoats, and petticoats, moving gracefully through Tai Chi forms on the English countryside before shooting emotional duels and dramatic declarations of love. At first, it looked completely out of place, but the effect was real. Actors reported being more relaxed, more focused, and more connected to their characters. The daily Tai Chi even became a set tradition, a weird but effective way to bond a diverse group of artists under the stress of an intense shoot. If you ever wondered why the performances in Sense and Sensibility seemed so grounded, now you know. The secret weapon was less tea, more Tai Chi. Sir John's secret map story. Some of the most magical moments in Sense and Sensibility weren't even in the script. Take Robert Hardy, who played the endlessly cheerful Sir John Middleton. During a quiet scene meant to showcase Sir John entertaining young Margaret Dashwood with an atlas, Hardy noticed the script had very little dialogue. Not wanting the scene to fall flat, he improvised a whimsical, entirely off-the-cuff story about the map, inventing silly facts and adventures on the spot to keep young actress Emily Francois engaged. The crew was so enchanted by the performance that when Ang Lee yelled "cut," they broke into spontaneous applause. Hardy's warmth and spontaneity gave the scene a real sense of joy and authenticity, proof that sometimes the best movie magic happens when an actor goes off script. It's those unscripted, genuine moments that often leave the biggest impression on screen and in memory. In the world of Sense and Sensibility, a little improvisation went a long way. When actors talk back in Taiwan, Ang Lee was used to directors being worshipped. No questions, total obedience. So you can imagine his surprise when Emma Thompson and Hugh Grant, British film royalty, politely challenged one of his camera setups. Lee had planned a long-distance shot for a key conversation. Thompson and Grant worried it wouldn't capture their facial expressions, and they said so. Lee felt wounded, even offended, convinced he was losing control of his set. The producers had to step in, gently explaining that, in the UK and Hollywood, actors were expected to give input, even to a director. For Lee, it was a crash course in collaborative filmmaking. The result? The film's most intimate moments, the ones you remember, were shaped by that back and forth, not by one man's vision alone. Lee later admitted it made him a better director. So next time you see Eleanor and Edward sharing a glance, know that it took a cultural collision, a little awkwardness, and a whole lot of courage to get that close-up just right. The producers made cameo. Some producers like to stay behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail with a clipboard. Not Lindsay Doran. In one of the most blink-and-you'll-miss-it moments of Sense and Sensibility, the film's own producer decided to don an apron and sneak onto set, as a maid. It happened during one of the bustling London scenes, when the production found itself short an extra at the last minute. Instead of panicking, Doran saw a chance to have a little fun. She slipped into costume, blending in perfectly with the background players. Her only request to Emma Thompson: "Don't give me any lines." It became an inside joke among the cast and crew every time that maid popped up on screen. They knew it was the mastermind herself, hiding in plain sight. Doran later admitted she loved getting a taste of the madness she usually managed from afar. It's a reminder that even at the top, sometimes you just want to play dress up and be part of the movie magic. Next time you spot a quiet servant gliding through a London hallway, remember, in Austen's world, anyone could be hiding a secret, even the boss. Homework assignments for grown-ups. Most actors expect a table read and maybe a few notes on character motivation, not on Ang Lee's set. Determined to dig deeper than any previous Austen adaptation, Lee handed out literal homework assignments, written questionnaires, detailed character studies, and even requests for letters in their character's voice. The cast, used to the usual actors' prep, were thrown for a loop, but as the competition heated up, it turned into a full-on creative showdown. Imogen Stubbs, playing Lucy Steele, went above and beyond. She wrote a hilarious letter from Lucy to Eleanor Dashwood, set years after the story, bragging about her marriage and gossiping like only Lucy could. The cast howled. Thompson loved it so much, she awarded Stubbs an actual prize for best homework. Instead of grumbling, the cast found themselves obsessed, swapping notes and building richer backstories than ever. The payoff is all over the screen, those tiny details and quirky quirks that make every character pop. Leave it to Ang Lee to turn homework into an actor's arms race. Kate Winslet's anxiety attack. Stepping onto a major film set as a teenager is intimidating enough, but Kate Winslet's first day on Sense and Sensibility left her completely rattled. After a grueling round of takes, Ang Lee barely spoke to her. Unused to the silence and convinced she'd flopped, Winslet gathered her courage and asked Lee if she'd done all right. He just patted her on the shoulder, paused, and told her quietly, "You'll get better." Winslet's stomach dropped. She left convinced she was on the chopping block, picturing a humiliating firing before she'd even unpacked her suitcase. In reality, Lee was trying to be supportive. His reserved style was just lost in translation. But the panic lingered. Winslet spent that first week rehearsing endlessly, determined to prove herself. It became a trial by fire that toughened her up for the rest of the shoot. Looking back, Winslet laughs about her terror, but it's a reminder that every performance you love is built on a mountain of nerves, self-doubt, and the relentless drive to improve. Sometimes, you'll get better is exactly what you need, even if it feels like the end of the world in the moment. Hugh Grant was always Edward. Before he was the global face of awkward, bumbling charm, Hugh Grant was just Emma Thompson's talented friend. She wrote the part of Edward Ferrars with him in mind, convinced he could nail the combination of shy humor and quiet vulnerability the role needed. But by the time production actually got the green light, Grant's career had exploded thanks to 4 weddings and a funeral. Suddenly, he was the hottest property in England, and Thompson worried he'd be too busy or expensive for their humble Austen project. The studio panicked, bracing for a last-minute recast. But Grant never wavered. Despite the fame, the offers, and the schedule crunch, he stuck with the film, delivering the exact blend of warmth and comic timing Thompson had envisioned. His loyalty set the tone on set. No egos, no diva antics, just the pure thrill of bringing a literary legend to life. It's a testament to casting from the heart and trusting your instincts. For Thompson, it was proof that sometimes the best choice is the friend you believed in from day one. The duel that never was. It's the most Austen thing never filmed. A dramatic duel between Colonel Brandon and Willoughby, drawn swords and all. Emma Thompson, adapting the script, was tempted to bring Austen's hinted-at showdowns to the screen. She actually wrote a full duel sequence, complete with tense dialogue and heroic flourishes. For a while, it was in the shooting schedule, ready to bring a little Pride and Prejudice meets the Princess Bride energy to the stately proceedings. They even plotted a dramatic confrontation scene for Willoughby's return during Marianne's illness, with desperate apologies and teary revelations. But after table reads and soul-searching, Thompson realized it would overwhelm the real story, The mystery, the heartbreak, the delicate choices at the novel's core. The duel was scrapped, the confrontation softened, and the film kept its subtle edge. Still, somewhere in an early draft, there's a lost Austen action sequence that almost changed everything. Sometimes, what you leave out is as important as what you put in. So next time you settle in for a rewatch of Sense and Sensibility, remember, every moment of elegance hides a pile of chaos, quick thinking, and a wild cast who survived it all, barely. Which weird fact blew your mind? Drop your favorite in the comments, and if you're hungry for more behind-the-scenes madness, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Because in Hollywood, even the classics have secrets that would make Jane Austen herself gasp. What should we expose next? The drama never ends.